if I talk about the concept of weighted average, it is just mixing two or more separate averages. Now, let me explain this with certain examples. So, let's say you have two buckets. One bucket has water at 10 degrees centigrade. Another bucket has really warm water at 80 degrees centigrade. If I take a larger bucket and pour the water from both the buckets into the larger bucket, what will happen? Like, what all can you infer? Trust me on this, like, understanding the concepts behind this is very important, because if you understand this, you'll never get a weighted average or mixture question wrong. So what will happen if I mix the two separate buckets of water into one larger bucket?
Water level increases and temperature evens out.
Temperature evens out. Okay.
Mhm.
So the thing is, what will, okay, let me change my answer, like question, rephrase my question. What do you think would be the temperature in this if I pour the water from both the buckets here?
Depends on the quantity of each.
Yeah, it depends on the quantity of each, right? I mean, obviously, let's say you have 10 liters in this bucket and you just have 1 liter in this bucket. What would be the temperature right now? In this scenario, it will be
Closer to
Close to 10.
10 degrees.
closer to 10 degrees. Okay. And let's say both are 10 and 10. What will happen then?
80, closer to 80.
Exactly in the middle. Because the volume is...
Yeah, then be around 45, right?
So because the water level in both is same, you will be exactly in the middle, which in this scenario would be 45. Are you all able to understand this? Class? That is why the concept, I'm scrolling down, okay? All of you should also scroll down. That is why the concept of volume in this case decides the final average. And that's why volume here becomes the weights. So the concept of weighted average is that there is a variable on which the final average relies on. In this scenario, average temperature of one bucket of water was 10, average temperature of other bucket of water was 80. So the combined average would totally depend on the volumes of each bucket. And that's why in this scenario, these volumes are weighed. And that's why the concept is weighted average. Okay, let me take another example. Because most of you are working, so most of you would be, investing in, like, at least at some level, right? So let's say you put your money in two kinds of investment. Investment one has performed very nicely and has given you 40% return last year. Okay. And let's say investment two did okay and gave you like 10% return last year. Now, you know that your portfolio also has this thing called average return. So now if I ask you, what will be the average return? That is the first thing you need to understand is, in order to find the average return, I need to combine the two individual averages. That is the fundamental concept behind weighted average, combining two individual averages. Now if I ask you what will be the average return, so what will be the answer?
I first need to know the amount invested in both of the investments.
Yeah, so amount invested in this case becomes what volume was in the previous case, right?
Right.
So now in the question, if the question asks you in this language, then the weights are what? Principal amount, the amount you invested. And that is common sense, right? Like, let's say I am investing 10 lakh in this and I am investing 50K in this. In investment one, I'm investing 10 lakh, and in investment two, I'm investing 50,000. So if that is the scenario, then my return will be much closer to what class? My return would be much closer to what? 40%? Do all of you agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it makes perfect sense.
Hmm.
Similarly, let's say we are partying and let's say I get a bottle of scotch. Some person, like I decided that I will make a glass of 75 ml and pour 75 ml of scotch in all the glass. Now, some people would come and say that this is too bitter. I need some coke in it. So, the amount of coke you pour will decide the taste of the drink, right? If I ask you, the bitterness of the drink will depend on what? Your straight away reply would be, I'm not changing the amount of alcohol in the glass. I can change the amount of coke I'm adding above it. So the taste will totally depend on how much coke I pour. So some people prefer that you just fill the glass, remaining glass with coke, because they would rather want to taste the coke than taste the bitterness of scotch. Some people will be like, okay, give me on the rocks. Just put in ice blocks in this. They are like, okay, I'm fine with it slightly diluting, but I like the taste. I love the bitterness. Some people will be like, you know what? Add water in this. And the dilution level also depends for everyone. These preferences come from where? These preferences come from how much you prefer the taste and whatever you do. So that will decide the average bitterness of the entire drink or the average taste of the entire drink. All of this is basically weighted average, nothing else. Like we apply weighted average in so many places that I mean it's really surprising that you know what that we don't see things from this perspective. We apply it everywhere. Okay, I mean the taste of the drink totally depends on the kind of chaser you use, how much you dilute, how much ice you put, and then a lot of people pour a lot of ice and then they wait because they want the drink to like get diluted and then they want to drink. I mean all of these things happen. So preference of everyone totally depends on how much comfortable they are with the bitterness of whatever drink they are drinking. Now let's take just one more example so that it's absolutely clear to all of you. Now here, what were the weights class? Weights were again what? In this case, weights were again what?
Volume of this additional substance.
Yes,
That
volume
we
of the
added.
additional substance. How many ice you put, how much water you put, right? How much coke you put. So basically, it's what? Again, volume. Volume are deciding what will be the average taste. One more example, final example. Okay. So I'm just scrolling down. So all of you should scroll down. Let's say I have to go from A to B and there's a place C. Just one second. A A to C, my average speed was 60 kilometer per hour. C to B, my average speed is 100 kilometer per hour. Now tell me, what will be my overall average speed throughout the journey? What will it depend on?
The distance from A to C
Distance
and
traveled.
Yeah, like that is one factor, but that's not exactly the weight here. I mean, technically not. Yes, distance is important. Yes, how far it is important, but there's one more thing that is also important. I mean, that makes more sense as a weight. Let me put it this way. And that is time. So basically, how much time you require to cover A to C and how much time you require to cover to C to B will be the weights in this case. Because if I have to write the overall average speed, what will I write? Speed 1 into time 1 plus speed 2 into time 2, which will give me total distance. Yes or no, class? This will give me total distance.
Yes.
And what
Yes.
is the total time? T1 plus T2.
T1 plus T2.
So time is a more accurate representation of weights here. Again, the context keeps on changing, but the idea of weighted average is that the average will, first of all, I'm scrolling down, average will first of all lie between 60 and 100. Now, where exactly it will lie will depend on at what speed you spend how much time. Let's say at the speed of 60, you spend 20 hours. And let's say at the speed of 100, you spend 5 hours. What will be the average speed, class? The average speed in this scenario will be closer
Close
to
to 60.
60. If the time would have been the same, let's say 5 hours, and time is equal to 5 hours, then in this scenario, the average speed would be exactly in the middle, which is 80. Okay, and another way, just a visualization for you all, so that because I'm explaining all of this because a lot of mixture questions are just basic common sense. You don't even you need to use the pen and you'll be able to give the answer. Okay, so again I'm scrolling down. You can see it as a seesaw. Okay, if the weight of the left average is higher, the seesaw will tilt towards the left, and that's why the average will be closer to the first average. And if the weight of the second is higher, the average will tilt towards the second average. And if it's much higher, like let's say second is much higher than first, then you will have a very steep incline like this. And that's why the second, like the overall average will be almost close to the second average because the incline is that steep. That's what's happening. Is everyone clear with this idea and understands how weighted average is an integral part of our life? Is everyone clear with this, class?
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm scrolling down and I'm just writing the formula. Okay, what is the formula for average, class? Average is equal to,
Sum
again,
of all
for everyone. Average is equal to
sum of all elements by the number of elements.
sum by number. Okay. Now, let's say I have average A1, average A2, average A3 of three different things. Okay. And their weights are N1, N2, and N3. Now, in this case, what will be the sum?
N1 A1 plus N2 A2 plus N3 A3.
All of you can take any example you're comfortable with. Okay, you can take A1, A2, A3 as temperatures, N1, N2, N3 as volume. You can take A1, A2, A3 as speed, N1, N2, N3 as time. You can take A1, A2, A3 as returns, N1, N2, N3 as principal amount. Anything works. But in all scenarios, the sum would be the best way to see this. Let's say A1, A2, A3 are average marks of three different classes, and N1, N2, N3 is the strength of those classes. Like, let's say class 1 has 20 students, class 2 has 30 students, class 3 has 40 students. Anything works. It really does not matter. But the sum would in all scenarios be A1, N1 plus A2, N2 plus A3, N3. Do all of you agree? Can I get like a thumbs up or a raise of hand from everyone if this is clear to everyone? Okay, 3 on 11. Others? I'm waiting for all of you to respond, class, because this is very important and I know how complicated this can get. Like, this is a topic which really becomes very tough to explain from my perspective also. That's why I'm like giving you all the perspective beforehand. Cool. Number of quantity in this scenario would be N1 plus N2 plus N3. Do all of you agree to this as well, class?
Yeah.
So the sum is A1 N1 plus A2 N2 plus A3 N3, and the number of quantities is N1 plus N2 plus N3. Obviously, the average is sum upon number of quantities. So the sum is A1 N1 plus A2 N2 plus A3 N3 upon N1 plus N2 plus N3. Now remember, whenever we are finding weighted average, because this average is the weighted average, you can have as many averages mixed and as many weights as you want mixed. Like this can go for A4 N4, A5 N5, A6 N6, and so on. And the denominator can go N4 plus N5 plus N6 plus N7 and so on. Like it can go for as long as you want. Okay. I'm scrolling down. I don't know if this will be recorded. Like I'm like, I don't know why Zoom had to change something which was working so perfectly. Like their whiteboard was so perfect. Anyway, now just one variation of this is when we have two quantities, only two quantities. Okay. When we have only two quantities, what can we write the formula as, class? Average is equal to anyone? What can we write the formula as? Average is equal to
A1 N1 plus A2 N2 by N1 plus N2.
yes. Now, all of you do this with me, okay? In your notebook. Just cross multiply. Take N1 and N1 plus N2 on the left hand side. So what will I get? Average into N1 plus N2 is equal to A1 N1 plus A2 N2. Now, if I just open the bracket, I will get average N1 plus average N2 equals to A1 N1 plus A2 N2. Now, take all the N1 terms on one side of the equality and take all the N2 terms on the other side of the equality. What will I get? What I will get is this. Average N1 minus A1 N1 is equal to A2 N2 minus average N2. If I take N1 common on left hand side, I get average minus A1. If I take N2 common on right hand side, I get A2 minus average. And then I just do some cross multiplication where I take all the weights one side and all the averages on the other side, which will help me get this. N1 upon N2 is equal to A2 minus average upon average minus A1. And we get a formula in this way. What did we start with? We started with this formula. Average is equal to A1 N1 plus A2 N2 upon N1 plus N2. We started with this and we got that these two are the only two formulas, only two concepts you need to know about mixtures. Now, let me explain the context of why I went ahead with so much of calculation. I'm scrolling down. This formula, which is average is equal to A1 N1 plus A2 N2 upon N1 plus N2. Use this whenever you have to find A1, A2 and average. Whenever you have to find A1, A2 or average, use the formula or written on the right side. Whenever the question asks you to find N1 or N2, or sometimes they will ask you to find the ratio of N1 upon N2, like what fraction of volume 1 should be taken, or what fraction of water should be added in the mixture, something like that. In that scenario, you also have to sometimes find N1 upon N2. But there's a clear demarcation of which formula is to be used where. You use N1 or N2 or N1 upon N2, which is on the left hand side, or you use to find A1, A2 or average, which is on the right hand side. So basically, what is the methodology of solving the question? The methodology of solving the question is very simple. You have a question in English, and this is true for any arithmetic question. Okay. If you're comfortable with English, directly translate that English into math. Otherwise, translate it into your native language. And then in this scenario, just identify A1, A2, average, N1, N2. In the case of mixture, all you need to do is bifurcate the information and identify what is the first thing being missed, what is the second thing being mixed, what is the average of the first thing, what is the average of the second thing, what is the weight or volume of the first, what is the weight or the volume of two, or what is the overall average. You just need to break down information in this and you will never get a mixtures question wrong. Identify A1, A2 average, identify N1 and N2. And done, you're done. That's it. Nothing else needs to be done. All you need to do is, okay, average is missing. I need to use the formula on the right hand side. Or, okay, you know what? The value of N1 or N2 or N1 upon N2 is missing. I'll use the formula on the left hand side. That's it. Nothing else. This is all you need to know. And another thing that you need to know is that all of this is nothing new. This is just expanded version of the average formula, which is sum upon number of quantities. Is this clear to everyone before we move on to question, class? If there's any doubt, no matter how silly, how stupid, I don't care, just ask me. Because there's a very, like, let me put it in this way, this is like a free marks in the exam. At least this topic. Because there is no way to ask the question which can make it harder. There will always be two quantities that needs to be mixed. There will always be an overall average. If you don't get stuck by trying to find shortcuts or some random tricks, you will never get confused in these questions. And the advanced questions, there are certain advanced questions on mixtures, but like there's no chance that you will get those questions. So you don't need to worry too much about those kind of advanced questions. They just come in CAT, and in GMAT they won't ask you. And anyway, the way we have covered arithmetic is something that I argued a lot, because I feel arithmetic is very scoring. So I did not want to cover all of these things in just 2 classes. But to be honest, like if I just had to cover the theory and solve certain questions, everything that we have done in the past 5 classes can be easily covered in 2 classes. But my objective was that you understand these things in depth, because Focus Edition is giving a lot of weightage to arithmetic and it's very scoring. Like, I mean, it would be a shame if you understood everything that I have told you and you don't get it right. I mean, yes, we will practice, we will ensure that you eliminate all the silly mistakes, but then I'll be disappointed if you don't get all the arithmetic questions right. Maybe I can like give you all some leeway, or I can be little lenient and say, you know what, you can get 1 or 2 questions wrong. But if you get anything beyond that wrong, then I will be very disappointed in all of you. Either you did not understand everything that I had to say, or you are not that serious about your GMAT score. And there can be no other reason, at least in arithmetic. So is the methodology clear to everyone? there are only two formulas. Every question we have to translate it into identifying A1, A2 average, N1 and N2. Yes, is it clear to everyone, class?
Yes, sure.
Yes.
So we can move ahead to the questions. I will still ask you to just go through everything that I've just explained. Take 2-3 minutes. Ask me anything you want to, because trust me, if you're clear with this, then we'll be done with mixtures in like next half an hour to 1 hour max. So we can have time to solve DS questions or at least solve like a quant sectional altogether.
Usually in the questions, would the weight be already assigned or हमें निकालने पड़ेंगे?
क्या मतलब what would be assigned? I did not get you.
Weights है N1 and N2.
Yeah, that's what you need to identify. No? They see mostly you will get questions of mixtures, and mixtures are usually of liquids. So N1, N2 would be volumes. Okay. So let me give you an example. I'm scrolling down. Like let's say it says that there's a 20% milk solution and there's a 80% milk solution. There's a 20% milk solution and there's a 80% milk solution. The volume of the first solution is 30 liters. What should be the volume of the second? What should be V2? If average is equal to 50. I mean, obviously, they won't give you a question like this. They will complicate the language. But if you see this, what is A1 here, class? A1 is 20%. Uska weight kya hai? What is weight of A1? 30 liters. What is A2? A2 is 80%. What is weight? We need to identify. So let's call it X. What is average? Average is 50. Now, what did I tell you all? If I have to find anything from weight, which formula do I need to use?
N1 by N2 one.
N1.
Left side.
So basically 30 by X is equal to A2 minus average. So 80 minus 50 upon average minus A1, which is 50 minus 20. So 30 by X is equal to 30 by 30, which clearly means X is also 30. So V2 is 30 liters. Done. I mean, obviously this seems very simple because I have broken down the English. So the only complicated thing is breaking down English into finding what is A1, what is A2, what is N1, what is N2. Simple thing. कौन सी दो चीजें मिक्स हो रही हैं? Which two things are getting mixed? What is the weight? Weight mostly will be volume, but if you get anything else, you understand the concept of weight now, right? Weight is the quantity on which the overall average depends. So let's say, let's just like do a pop quiz quickly. Let's say I have to find average weight of two groups. Okay. Group 1 has some average weight of 90 kgs and group 2 has some average weight of 60 kgs. What will be the weights? What will be N1, N2 here, class?
Number of people in group 1 and group 2.
It's obvious, right? I mean, the overall average totally depends on number of people in this case. Yes or no, class?
Yes.
There are two quantities of rice. The first rice costs 100 rupees per kg. The second rice costs 70 rupees per kg. If I mix these two rice, what will be the average cost of the rice? What are the weights in this case?
Volume of rice. Or weight of rice.
Volume of rice.
Weight of rice. Weight of rice. Weight of rice.
Weight, quantity of rice, and quantity in rice is measured in kgs, right? So it will totally depend on how many kg of first quantity you have mixed with how many kgs of second quantity. So that becomes N1 and N2 here. And obviously, if you are ever mixing two liquids, let's say I am constantly scrolling down, class, so you should keep on scrolling down with me, okay? And this is so complicated. And let's say if A1 is a 30% ethyl alcohol solution and A2 is a 40% ethyl alcohol solution and you are in crazy mood to party and you're mixing two different drinks, what will be the average alcohol concentration? What will it depend on?
Volume of both.
Volume. Like how much of A1 you put, how much of A2 you put, right? Yes or no, class? That's it. That's literally it. Okay. One more thing before I move forward. A1, A2 average can be represented in percentage and it can also be represented in ratios. Because percentage is what? Simplest language, percentage is ratio taken on a scale of 100. So basically, I can say 30%, I can also say 3 by 10. What's the difference, class? Is there any difference between these two? It's just a different way of representing, right? All of you understand this, right? 30% and 3 by 10 are interchangeable quantities. There is no difference between the two. You all understand this, right? Class?
Yeah.
So basically, A1, A2 average, if you take all three as percent, you will get answer as percent. If you take all the quantities as ratio, let's say if the question asks you to take it as ratio, then you will get answer also as ratio. Is it clear to everyone? Simple. They can say 50% or they can say half. Okay. And one more variation can be, they can say, okay, this is just be careful with this. Okay. A question can be ratio of milk to water in solution 1 is 3:5. Ratio of milk to water in solution 2 is 2:7. Now tell me what is A1 and A2 in this scenario, class. What is A1 and A2 in this scenario? Anyone? Class?
Are we supposed to like mix the both solution then tell the A1, A2 or like A1, A2 of each
Get the
solution?
overall average, no? If we mix, then we get overall average. For that, we'll need volume. I'm just asking you that if this is given and then you have to find A1 and A2, what will be the values of A1 and A2? A1 here and A2 here. Because if you mix it, then you get average. There is no point of getting A1 and A2. See, this is where you need to be careful. If you feel the answer is 3 by 5 and 2 by 7, then you're wrong. Okay, because A1, A2 is average, right? What is average concentration? Like if I say the concentration of milk is 40%, what does this mean, class? This means that if I take 100 ml of solution, not just water, out of this 100 ml, 40 ml is what? Milk. Yes or no, class? Can I say this? This
Yes.
is what percent means.
Hmm.
So basically, out of 100, there is 40 water, there's 40 milk, there's 60 water, and that's how the concentration of milk is 40%. So in the same scenario, if milk is 3, water is 5, I can say total is 8. If milk is 3 parts, water is 5 parts, total parts are 8. Can I say this or not, class?
Yeah.
That's why A1 will be milk upon total. A1 will be 3 by 8 in this scenario because denominator has to be total volume. That's when you get concentration. And if the milk to water ratio is 3:5, in simple language, it means if I'm taking 3 parts of milk, I'm taking 5 parts of water. So I'm taking total 8 parts. Out of those total 8 parts, 3 part is milk. So A1 is 3 by 8. Similarly, A2 will be how much, class? By same logic, what will be A2?
2 by 9.
2 by 9.
But why have you considered only milk? Like not
Yes, yes.
We can solve it using water also. Then A1 will be 5 by 8 and A2 will be 7 by 9. But the only difference is the answer that you get in average is water concentration in this scenario, on the left scenario. And in the right scenario, the answer that you will get of average will be milk concentration. Is it clear to you all? Like you can use either. The only
Mhm.
difference will be if you're using milk concentration, your answer will be milk concentration. If you're using water concentration, your answer will be water concentration.
that'll be like given, right?
I mean, it depends from question to question. I mean,
Yeah.
because you'll have to anyway answer the question in terms of milk is to water if this question ever comes. So you'll have to again convert anyway. So even if you do it by the left method or the right method, it's inconsequential as long as you remember what you're doing. The only thing that I'm trying to say is that I'm scrolling down, class. Concentration is never equal to volume of quantity 1 upon volume of quantity 2. Concentration is always volume upon total volume. I hope all of you are very clear with this, class. Otherwise,
So,
you.
y- yeah, in the above example, what will be N1, N2? Like I got
I
confused.
haven't given N1, N2. I just wanted to explain how to write A1, A2. I haven't even given. So if
Okay.
a question like this comes, I'm going back up, class. If a question like this comes, it will be given like 20 liters of milk is to water solution has 3:5. So N1 becomes 20. Is it clear now?
Yes, yes.
And this notion is also clear, class, which I have written down, that concentration is never volume of quantity 1 upon volume of quantity 2. Concentration is always volume of quantity 1 upon total volume. Is this clear to everyone? Class, is it clear? Yes?
Yes.
Awesome.